It was supposed to be just another busy night at one of the city's most prestigious restaurants. The place was buzzing with chatter, dishes clinking, and the usual rush of servers moving swiftly between tables. But no one expected that a quiet, modest woman, wearing plain clothes and sitting at the back table would soon become the center of everyone's attention. She wasn't a customer with a reservation or a critic hiding behind a menu. She had simply walked in looking for work, hoping for a chance in the kitchen. The head chef, known for his strict standards and sharp tongue, chuckled when he saw her. Thinking it would be funny, he handed her an apron and said, "All right then, show us what you've got, cook something." The staff laughed. They assumed she'd freeze, fumble, or walk out embarrassed. But instead, she'd quietly tied her apron and stepped into the kitchen. What no one knew was that behind her gentle eyes and soft voice was a lifetime of cooking, shaped by love, hardship, and tradition. As she began to gather ingredients, something shifted in the air. The clatter quieted. Curious eyes started watching. The jokes stopped. And as the first aroma started drifting out of the kitchen, people started turning their heads. No one could believe what she was making, or how it smelled. What happened over the next few minutes left the entire restaurant silent till the first bite was taken. And that's when everything changed. The dish she was preparing wasn't anything fancy, at least not by fine dining standards. It was a humble stew, the kind passed down through generations, made from simple ingredients but filled with soul. The chef raised an eyebrow, still assuming she'd mess it up, and some of the younger cooks exchanged smirks. But there was something in the way she moved, confident, calm, like she belonged in that kitchen more than anyone else. Her hands didn't hesitate. Every pinch of spice, every stir of the pot seemed guided by instinct rather than a recipe. Even the sous chef, who rarely paid attention to anything but the head chef's commands, found himself watching her closely. Word started spreading through the restaurant that a random woman was cooking in the kitchen. Some diners leaned forward in curiosity. Others laughed softly, assuming it was some publicity stunt. But as the scent of the stew spread through the air, warm and oddly nostalgic conversations slowly died down. Even the chef's smile had faded, replaced by a look of growing unease. He couldn't explain it, but something about the smell was familiar. She didn't speak much while cooking, only asking politely for certain ingredients or utensils. It was clear she wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just cooking from the heart. Still, no one knew who she really was, where she had learned to cook like that, or why this dish was affecting everyone so deeply. And just when the chef leaned in for a closer look, she quietly lifted the lid. A wave of steam rose as she gently lifted the lid, and with it came a deeper, richer aroma that made people stop mid-sentence. The head chef leaned in closer, his brows furrowed. He couldn't quite place it, but something about that smell tugged at a long-buried memory. He didn't say a word, but his expression shifted from smug to unsettled. Meanwhile, a few servers had quietly slipped into the kitchen, pretending to grab plates just to get a look. One of them whispered to another, "This smells like something my grandmother used to make." Back at the front of the restaurant, a food critic who had come in unannounced noticed the sudden change in mood. The room had gone unusually quiet, diners whispering and glancing toward the kitchen. Curious, he stood and made his way toward the back, wondering if something had gone wrong. At the same time, a young line cook, Matteo, who had only been working there a few weeks, stood frozen by the counter. His eyes locked on the woman. "I know her," he mumbled under his breath. "She used to run the food stall near my school, before it closed down." The woman remained focused, unaware of the growing tension around her. As she began plating the dish, the chef's voice finally broke the silence. "Who taught you to cook like this?" he asked, his tone sharper now, not playful anymore. She paused, glanced up, and gave a faint smile before she could answer. A loud crash came from the dining room. The crash echoed through the restaurant, snapping everyone's attention away from the kitchen. A server had dropped a tray completely. By accident, but no one blamed her. She'd been staring at the woman, too, unable to believe what she was seeing. The chef's eyes narrowed. "Answer me," he said again, more firmly this time. The woman didn't flinch. She looked him in the eye and softly said, "I learned from someone you once knew. Someone you forgot." That line hit harder than anyone expected. The chef's jaw clenched. He didn't press further, but something in his face changed like. A door inside him had opened just a crack. Meanwhile, Mateo stepped forward, breaking the silence. "Her name's Amara. She used to cook outside my school. Everyone loved her food. People came from blocks away just for one bowl." He turned to the head chef. "Did you really not recognize her?" The chef didn't respond. His silence only made the room heavier. The critic, still observing quietly from the side, scribbled something in his notebook. He wasn't sure what kind of review this night would end with, but he knew it would be unlike anything he'd ever written. Diners had begun to whisper again, sensing something big was happening behind those swinging kitchen doors. Amara took a deep breath and walked the plated dish out to the center of the restaurant. No server stopped her. No one dared to. She gently placed the bowl on the critic's table. All eyes were now on him, waiting for the first bite. The critic stared at the bowl in front of him. He had tasted hundreds of dishes in his career, most technically perfect. Some unforgettable, but something about this one made him hesitate. Slowly, he lifted the spoon, letting the aroma rise first. The room held its breath. He took one bite, then stopped. His face didn't show approval or disapproval, just stillness. Then, quietly, he asked, "Who made this?" Before Amara could answer, the head chef stepped forward, his voice cold. "She's not on staff. She doesn't belong in this kitchen." His words cut through the moment, shifting the energy instantly. But before anyone could react, the critic placed his spoon down and looked directly at the chef. "That's funny," he said, "because this is the first dish tonight that tastes like it came from someone who actually cares." The tension was now unbearable. Gasps rippled through the tables. The chef's face flushed not from embarrassment, but something deeper. Then, from the back of the room, a woman in her 60s slowly stood up. "I know that recipe," she said, her voice trembling. "That dish? It's from a village in the south. My grandmother used to make it during harvest season." She walked closer, eyes locked on Amara. "Where did you learn that?" Amara didn't speak yet. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out an old, stained photo. She handed it to the older woman. The woman's hands shook as she looked at it, tanned. The color drained from her face. Something no one expected was about to be revealed. The older woman stared at the photo, her lips parting as a tear slipped down her cheek. "This is my sister," she whispered. "And you're her daughter." Amara nodded slowly, her voice barely audible. "She passed when I was young, but she taught me everything in that little kitchen by the field. I never forgot." Gasps filled the room as the connection unfolded. Nara wasn't just a stranger. She was family to someone in the crowd, and her dish wasn't just a recipe. It was a living piece of tradition that had traveled through generations. The head chef looked pale now. He stepped closer, scanning the photo himself. Suddenly, his shoulders dropped. "That's my mother too," he said quietly. Silence fell again, this time heavier. "I didn't recognize you," he added, his voice cracking. "You disappeared after the funeral. We thought you were gone forever." Amara looked at him calmly. "I didn't disappear. I was pushed away. But I found my way back through." The food she taught us, whispers turned into murmurs. Staff, diners, even the critic now stood still, trying to grasp what had just been revealed. But just as the emotions peaked, the critic broke the silence. "This dish deserves a place on your menu," he said to the chef. "But only if she's the one making it." The chef didn't respond right away. Then he turned to Amara. "Can we start over?" She smiled softly, but just before anyone could exhale, a man walked through the door, looked at her and said, "Amara, you're cooking here now." Amara turned toward the voice. Her eyes widened in surprise. "Daniel," she said softly. The man smiled, stepping closer. "I thought I'd never see you again. I came by to drop off a delivery. Then someone said a woman was cooking magic in the kitchen. I knew it had to be you." It turned out Daniel was an old friend from the village, someone who had once helped Amara during the hardest days after her mother passed. Seeing him again felt like one last thread being tied back where it belonged. The restaurant, once filled with doubt and judgment, now felt warm and alive with something deeper than just food. It felt like home. The head chef, still shaken but humbled, walked up to Amara and said, "We lost a lot of things over the years. Maybe we can bring some of it back, together." She didn't respond with words, just a simple nod and a smile. That was enough. Later that night, the critic published his review, calling the dish the heart of a forgotten kitchen, praising the unexpected talent that reminded everyone why cooking matters beyond trends and titles.